All right, good morning. My name is Quentin DeBerry. We'll start. Black resumes. I have this ability to find hidden talent in people that sometimes even know they didn't have. That came from Berry Gordy. Again, my name is Quentin DeBerry. I'm a graduate of Winston-Salem State University. I have a master's in organizational leadership, and I'm a Grammy-nominated songwriter. So the problem, while it may sound like an excuse, the unfortunate reality that there's a very limited pool of black talent to recruit from. This came from Wells Fargo CEO Charlie Struff in 2020. Our problem is there's a lack of diversity sourcing plus recruiting access. To me, that means there's a network gap between black and brown talent and the organizations looking for diverse career-ready talent. Two, there's a skills gap. 42% of companies say they plan to launch upscaling or reskilling initiatives to their current workforce. And then three, skills development. Amazon in 2019 announced a major initiative to upskill 100,000 US employees by 2025, focused on software engineering, IT for IT workers. Solutions. We provide organizations with a pipeline of skill and develop black and brown talent for high functional roles, including both business and technology areas. Accessibility, convenience, and it's cost effective. What happens is accessibility. You get direct access to our talent ecosystem. Convenience is very convenient because everyone in the database is black or brown, which helps solve our diversity issues for our organization. And then it's very cost effective because it reduces manual sourcing time. And just the platforms itself cost a lot when you're talking about diversity sourcing platforms. So Black Resumes is a talent platform built to cultivate, develop, and connect black talent with organizations, again, seeking highly skilled, diverse talent. I like to say our target users are black and brown professional talents who need career talent management to include development, job placement, and skills development. And then for our customers, our small, medium-sized enterprises, as well as large enterprises looking to hire that same black and brown talent. And I use the word career equity for the organization. There's a big focus on diversity and inclusion, but for me, it was equity. I graduated from Winston-Salem State. Like I said, I was student body president. I worked for Russell Simmons. I worked for P. Diddy. I did all these things, but I moved back to Charlotte, and the first role I got was a call center role. I knew I was way more qualified than a call center role. Worked my way up, went to a talent leadership development program. Did that for about 18 months. 5 years of working my butt off at Wells Fargo. They let me go December 23rd. I'd say it was the best thing that ever happened to my career. I moved into talent recruiting, and this is where this idea was birthed. Some of our major milestones. I say Black Resume was born through my own individual journey navigating the complex job search process, not only as a black candidate, but a former Wells Fargo hiring manager and as a technical recruiter. So May 2019, the day my grandfather died, the day I graduated graduate school, and my mom was supposed to come to my graduation ceremony. She didn't come. So I launched my company on that day because I'm resilient. H3 was our ideas lab. It was a place for me to dump all of my ideas, all of my thoughts, and just kind of test them on people. The pandemic hit. I had to move to a virtual space. During that time, we built a lot of social capital in terms of working with Microsoft. We were working with AvidXchange and some partners in Birmingham, Alabama, but I wasn't able to bring them together because of COVID. So I moved to virtual events, and I created something called Recruiters and Candidates. And so I would bring a bunch of just black and brown recruiters from Google, Facebook, Credit Karma, and have this intimate virtual setting where candidates could really come and ask questions about how do I get this job? What does my resume need to look like? What skills do I need to have? Inside of that, I started creating virtual events. So my company focused on the agile world. So we do training around business analysts, product owners, Scrum Masters. These are skills where necessarily you don't have to have the technical coding background, but I think if you have the ability to communicate, the ability to set meetings, the ability to strategize and think, these are roles that you really can be successful in. It's just really somebody teaching you the core fundamentals. So mid-year, this year, 2021, I launched Black Resumes. It's made more money than H3 and any other idea I've ever had over the last several months. So major milestones. So we interview over 50 different technical recruiting hiring managers. We constantly interview black technical recruiters, both agency and corporate, just to get their challenges of what they're seeing. We've signed a sourcing agreement with AvidXchange. We've done over 10 talent acquisition events. I had my first win. I pitched competition on 11/9, so that was our first company milestone. We've spoken with WorkLlama, Microsoft diversity sourcing team, and I've created the business analyst product boot camps. And we have about 500 total resumes in our database. Just really quick, the market is growing. There's a need for simple systems and need for adaptability. Diversity is not going anywhere. Diversity recruiting market is about 357 million. There's about 79 million Black Americans. Just really quick, compared to my competitors, I looked at two, Junko and Black Tech Pipeline. None of the current founders or the platform itself are connected to those Black and brown ecosystems. After talking to some of my customers, I learned that the quality of talent that they were getting from these sources were not there. So they were, for example, they may have been looking for a business analyst, but they were getting a call center rep. So there was not a good translation of talent. And then they come from no recruiting background based on the level of providing the right talent. I don't know why this came out like that, but our pricing, if your organization does about 20 to 149 openings, we'll charge up about $1,000, 150 to 500 is 3,000 to have access to the candidates. We also take a percentage placement of the candidate if they're sourced from our talent pipeline. Currently, from a traditional model, they take about 20 to 25%, but if you're using our platform, we give you a reduction. Also preparing diversity recruiting events, and then our standard business to business service. Our business to customer service is our resume service, and then our training courses. What we need about $65,000 to $70,000 to actually build the platform in its entirety. I do have a demo of the platform, and this will help build out our platform, customer acquisition, and then for me, just a startup coach. I've been really successful on my own, but I think as you elevate and go, you actually need coaches or people that have been or traveled the path. And so I think I'm at the point where I've kind of done and turned over every rock that I know. So just looking for more coaches. A coach. Our consultants, Aaron Blue is one of my best friends. He's a technical recruiter that got me into the game. Will Featherstone is our innovation strategy. He allows me to just yell and think really crazy, and he puts it together. Brent is our marketing person. He's somewhere in here. And then Ashley Hargrave is a diversity, equity, inclusion executive at Novant Health.
So Quinn, this is great. And you're a good presenter and a charismatic individual, and I applaud your resilience. Well done. So I do a lot of hiring. I've hired probably 50 people at Payzer, and I've probably hired, I don't know how many in my life, but hundreds, right? And I think that the service that you're providing candidates is really needed. Many of the candidates that I see today, independent of their ethnic kind of background, they're really poorly prepared. And it's not just their resumes that need help. They are unfamiliar with how to interact with hirers, and they often undermine themselves in ways that they don't even realize. And so I think that offering a resume service is great. I think that there may be some real potential for you to expand your services to your clients, to include coaching them on how to interview and coaching them on how to prepare. It's extraordinarily common for us when we hire somebody, they'll come in for an interview and they will have done no research on our company and they'll have nothing to write on or with. And so they could be a very nice and personable and good and intelligent person, and they just seem like a rookie, right? And so I kind of had three things I wanted to say to you. One is, I feel as though the customers that you're going to acquire, you should offer them more services, right?
So we do.
Good, great, awesome.
Basically, the approach is, so I've managed artists, and I realized that it takes artists, to be a superstar artist, you need all of these people in your life to do certain things. So the full-fledged platform has your ability to contact coaches, resume writers, skills-based training. So I want to be able to say, when, let's say Wells Fargo is looking for the next Black and brown CFO, like this person is in our ecosystem. Companies don't do a great job of training and development because we're producing widgets. My company wants to come in and help you do that holistically. So we're involve 360 around this person's career. I watched Russell Simmons, I watched P. Diddy be really successful by holistically managing products and not just kind of, I'm gonna give you this one service and you're gonna cut me a check and I'm leaving. I think the value for me of just learning was one great candidate knows 3 other great candidates, and so I'm just kind of leveraging, mushrooming them from a holistic standpoint.
So my first thing, that's good. My first thing was you can offer more services to these clients you acquire. Second, are you familiar with what used to be Charlotte Agenda? It's now called Axios. Yeah. So they make a ton of their money on job postings on their job board. You can charge a lot of money for a posting on a job board. You probably already know that, right? And like for us, spending $250 or $500 a month on a posting on a job board where we get some candidates, that's an easy yes, right? And so I don't know if that's part of your stack, but like that would be an easy thing to do. And third, on your ask, you're not, in my opinion, you're not asking for enough. Right. If you ask for $65,000 to $70,000, that's a signal to professional investors that you're thinking small, right? I would encourage you to think about what would I do with $250,000 or $500,000, right? Because a professional investor is going to, unless you really want to target angels, unless you really want to target an individual, if you ask for an amount like that, any investment firm, they'll just pass based on that, right? You share that perspective?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we would pass for sure. I mean, we couldn't do the deal for 65.
Yeah, right.
Because
do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so like, and like having more capital, like you strike me as a person that like, this is something I say to strangers when I meet them and I think they're good. If you were a stock, I would buy you, right? Because like, I think if you had additional capital to go pursue what you're going after, like I sort of feel like you're not limited by the scope of your vision, right? And so don't limit yourself by the scope of your resources, in my opinion, right? But that's my 3 pieces of feedback. I would also like to know what song you were nominated for. Like what?
Then called Love and War. I have some songs on All American that comes on CW. I have some songs that play on this show called El Club on Netflix, and like 1 or 2 more. I dream really big. I was gonna ask for my 2 big competitors. I think they were just funded at 10 million. The other was 50 million. So I kind of thank you for that advice. That's all I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start. I'll start with the idea, which is for first checks, I'm betting on you, right? And I would agree with Chris. You strike me as quote unquote venture backable or scalable, right? One of the main things I'm always looking for is mission orientation. Is this the person that should be building this, right? Are they uniquely positioned? And I think you need to lead with your story, right? Like you were kind of reading on the slides and then you got to the like my experience and then you were on, right? You were telling me, you were educating, right? And so to me, the combo of why you're the right person is, hey, I'm a graduate from college. I worked for 2 of the biggest artists that there are. I was very successful. I saw what it's like to manage talent. And then I moved here and I got boxed into a call center job, right? And I have lived the problem of being either not having the right pipeline into the job that I want, being underestimated, whatever it was, right? So you've lived the problem, and yet you've also had a great experience that suggests that you can solve the problem, right? Honestly, as an investor who writes first checks, like you can almost throw every other slide away. Like that's the first question. Like to me, if we get past that question, then we'll get into the weeds. I agree. 65 to 70K is like doesn't strike me as enough. Now the one thing I was like we got all the way to the back, and when you said that, I was like, oh crap! I thought this product was farther along, right? Like in my head and your build up. This was a working product you were making, I was like, okay, like I was living it in my head. And then when you said 65 to 70K, I'm like, oh, this is a PowerPoint, right? So I think that's fine, but I'd probably within this pitch, I'd probably go to some level of like, help me mock up, help me see what's in your head, and then ask for a bigger ask. Like, hey, I want to hire a developer, I want to do this, and I want to go out and devote myself full time to sales and all these other kind of things. So I agree. I think I don't know if 250 to 500, if your pre-product, is going to work exceptionally well in the Charlottes and southeast of the world, but 100 to 150 seems very doable. I also think, setting it up for the right investors. I've got to believe that, one, Charlotte's a town that's recognizes its own issues in terms of economic opportunity and inclusion. There is a ton of money out there that is talking about that, whether for whatever reason, whether it's like I believe it or I'm ashamed of my past or whatever it is, but people are working on that problem. So I think the amount of capital that's available to someone here locally in Charlotte that wants to solve that problem is higher than many other places. And in that first pitch, it's do I like this person and do I like what they're doing? I think the kind of people that get involved, the angels that are writing into 150K round, are doing it because they want this thing to exist. Yeah. They're not underwriting the cash on cash return per se, right? So, I think those are kind of the big things, like really lead with you and your experience and you having lived it, because in the end, I guarantee you that if you do that and then some, cleanup of this, like, you'll raise what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think this is true of almost everybody that we see here over a long time. Like, I've been doing this 10 years or so, something like that. Fewer slides, fewer words, bigger font. Because the slides,
tell me the story. The
slides always undermine the entrepreneur because they feel like they got to get through all this detail, right? And like, by the time you get into the detail, you're swamping the audience, right? Not you, but like you a little bit, but like anyone, right? Like, they're just trying to grab on to the basic concept of what you're talking about, right? And so, like, for anyone who's like thinking about this or watching this, it's brutally hard to reduce the number of slides, reduce the number of words, and make the fonts bigger. And when you do so, the quality of the communication skyrockets, right? Because if people say, "Can you tell me more?" You're winning.
Right.
Like, you're winning.
It also pulls that crutch away from you, which is that desire to want to turn around and read me what's on the slide. Yeah. I don't want to read what's on the slide. I want to hear you tell me why I should be engaged. And
the most difficult and best manager I ever had, if I had a meeting with him, he would say, "Okay, in 10 words or less, tell me why we're talking." 10 words, holy shit, Tom. Like, come on, man, But like, when I went in, I knew what I wanted to talk about, and I could tell him, and we could have that meeting, and it would like be successful. And 10 words is not very many. He was Twitter before Twitter. It was great, Quinn.
Yeah, good job.
It was great.
Yeah.
Well done, yeah.